Welcome to the Magellan Network Show, episode number 359. Greetings from Auckland, New Zealand, here on my spring of 2026 sabbatical. My name is Coach Joe Lucas. I'm a host, and for over 32 years, I've done nothing but coach elite advisors to be the best version of themselves, grow their business, have it all, have time freedom, economic abundance, and all those things. And in this episode, I want to talk about goal setting and some best practices, some do's and don'ts. I'm going to share with you the framework that we teach our clients to use, and why it's so important to do goal setting in the way that I'm going to share with you. So first, let's unpack some common misconceptions of how to set goals if you're a financial advisor. So first off, is that most advisors make this a very academic exercise. So in other words, let's get the spreadsheet out. Let's look at what we've done in the past. And then what we've done in our past will predict our future. And number one, that's very limiting. So if you've been growing at, I think the last number I saw, the typical advisor grows at like 6 to 8%, maybe 9% a year, over the entire industry. And I've always believed as a standard, as a floor, that if you're really serious about the game, that you want to be growing at least 20% a year. You want to be doubling your business every 3 to 5 years. And those are the type of advisors I work with, right? We're very aggressive. We go for it. And we're okay with challenging ourselves and doing, some very stretch goals, or in some terminologies like impossible goals, things like that. So first off is we're going to be aggressive with our goals. But number two is we're going to work a framework of time. So we're going to use time as a tool, as an ally. And what we're going to have you do is set a 10-year vision, right? A 3-year, 1 year. So we do follow a little bit of an EOS protocol. So 10, 3, 1. So we're going to create a 10-year vision. Then we're going to have a 3-year snapshot, and then what we're going to do in the next 12 months. And the 10-year, and this has been kind of new thinking for me, is I used to always put a lot of energy into the 3-year, like 36 months, 12 quarters, very easy to do. But this past, for myself personally, when I reset my goals, I spent a lot of time, like I'm talking like days, on my 10-year. And I got it super clear. And I think, and what I have found is that, people tend to be either very good short-term thinkers are very good long-term thinkers. So the long-term thinker they know where they want to be in a decade. They're not sure what they got to do tomorrow. And the short-term thinker is, hey, I know what I got to do in the next 24 hours. 2 years from now, I can't see the road, right? So and what I realize is it's kind of what I call a starting point. And you can train yourself. So if you struggle with long-term thinking, guess what? You tend not to exercise that muscle because you don't like it. And to put it into more of maybe a better term, if you hate working legs, if you work out, you lift weights, and you hate leg day, you probably try to avoid leg day, right? And inversely, so you're not going to work your weakness. And what I found very recently is that if you're not a good long-term thinker or a good long-term planner, the first thing is spend time thinking about it. I exercise that muscle. What I did is, when I was thinking about my 10-year, I took several mornings and I just thought about it, and I would write little things down, things I want to accomplish, things I want to have, economics. And I just started kind of, doing that. So again, train the mind. And I think what we have to remember is that, we talk about artificial intelligence, right? It's all the rage today. But what is the most important skill in deploying an artificial intelligent agent? It's the prompting, right? If you suck at prompting, you're going to get sucky results. Well, same thing here with goal setting, and especially long-term goals. If you have terrible prompts, then why would you think your brain will solve? Remember, artificial intelligence versus real intelligence. Your brain will solve for you if you allow it to, and you have some patience. So the first thing is, if you're not a long-term thinker by nature, don't believe you're going to sit down for an hour one time and come up with a 10-year vision for yourself, because you won't. And then what will happen is you'll get frustrated and you'll abandon it and you'll go back to some short-term stuff. So we want to avoid that. All right. We just do. All right. So we're going to take some time. We're going to build out 10-year, and we're going to be aggressive. So doubling, tripling the business. Okay. We're going to do that. And don't worry about how you're going to get it done. So this is what the problem is, that because what makes you a good financial planner, high degree of certainty, really hurts you in your own business planning and goal setting. Because if you can't reverse engineer a 10-year, like, well, I need to bring on $150 million or $200 million in the next decade, and my best year has been 8 million. Well, that's not going to work. And then your brain goes, well, then we can't do it. We can't solve the problem. And what you have got to realize is that you're going to be a much different, you're going to be a much more capable person a decade from now than you are today. So that's the first thing we want to look at, is understand that I don't need, if you can reverse engineer your 10-year goal and be comfortable, it's not big enough. Okay. I want a 10-year goal that your brain cannot solve easily. That's the first thing. And for a lot of advisors, it's a very uncomfortable place to be because it lacks a high degree of certainty. Okay. So we build a 10-year out, and we build it out personally and professionally. So we're not just doing one side of our world. We're doing both sides. Then we're going to suck it down to a 3-year. So where do we need to be in 36 months? And that's where we're going to spend. That's where it gets a little more clear, obviously. You get some more detail around it, probably more strategies, and then we'll break it down again into a 1-year. Like, what are we going to do in the next 12 months? Okay. But don't take the 10-year divided by 10 and say, well, year one, in order for us to be on track for our 10-year, we have got to be, 1/10 of the way. No, you can be 2% of the way, 3%. You may need to develop capabilities, momentums. You may need to go hire people. So I don't get caught up in that, right? But I do want a strong 10-year. Now, for fun, here's what we do. As an exercise, it doesn't mean we're going to commit to it, but as an exercise, a little stress test. What we're going to do is take our 10-year goal and say, we have to accomplish this in the next 36 months. So you take your 10-year now, you suck it down into a 3-year. What do you eliminate? What do you say yes to? What do you say no to? What pathways are now not valid? What new pathways do we need to establish to accomplish our goal? Now, it doesn't mean that we're going to go for it that way. But what I have found is a clarifying exercise. You will find little things that are, if I eliminate that, or if I just focus on this pathway versus that pathway, I can get there maybe not in 10 years, I get there in 6 years or 8 years, right? So taking it down into 3 years and spending some time, very uncomfortable time, by the way, working on it is very, very valuable, very, very valid. So I would definitely recommend that energy. And then we get into the 1-year, right, from that perspective. Now, let's say we've got a 10-year goal, and I'm going to use an example I think would be a good example. So I'm I've got $1 million advisory team, and 10 years from now, I want to be a $5 million advisory team. Okay, that's my impossible goal. I want to get to $5 million. So keep that simple. I'm at $100 million of assets. I need to be at $500 million of assets, and just saying it out loud, like, whoa, right? And in this frame, in this example, we have no idea how we're going to get there, right? Like, we've been chucking along. We've been at the game now for 10, 15 years. We've been growing okay, proud of ourselves, but this is a whole different paradigm, okay? So the first thing is we've got now established a number that we cannot reverse engineer, right? So again, $5 million the top line. And I like goals that are based on, I don't like asset-based goals. Here's why. Valuation metrics today are all either a multiple of gross top-line revenue or a multiple of EBOC or EBITDA. So at the end of the day, they're not measuring your asset base. And you and I both know that we can play this game where we can go and discount our fees way down and buy assets, right? Basically, because we'll do it cheap. But you're not going to have the profits. You're not going to have the valuation. So I'm going to talk about $5 million. Okay, that's our number. Now, goal. Box 1, $5 million. Now, what do most advisors do? They go right now to box 4. I didn't tell you the other 2 boxes yet. So box 1 is the goal. Box 4 is how we're going to get it done. So how we're going to get it done is a formula, right? And we can figure it out. So if I want to do $5 million at the top, I'm probably going to need $500 million of advisory assets. Or if I'm pricing a little bit differently, maybe it's $400 million, right? Maybe I'm $1.25, right? So it's really $400 million based on the number of households that I currently have, right? And my average is I'm going to need another 200, 300 households. And in order to do that, I'm going to need another one or two, maybe three associate advisors to help me run that block of business. And you can reverse engineer it down. And then, well, how are we going to get it done? Well, we're going to have to up our referral game. We're going to have to optimize them. We have to run seminars, maybe lead gen, internet lead gen. Maybe we have to acquire a practice or two, right? There's all these different ways, right? So that's where most people spend their time. And in my experiences, it's the least effective place. That's of the 4 boxes, the what the goal is and how to get it done. The how to get it done is the easiest box. It's also not the most important box. So think of it like if you're watching me on YouTube, think of it like almost like a flow chart, right? So what the goal is, and then the 4th box is how we're going to get it done. So what are the 2 in the middle? What are the 80% that we're missing? It boils down to 2 elements, okay? Element number 1, why is this a must for you? Because at the end of the day, it's not about being motivated. A lot of people think that one of my roles, one of my jobs, if you will, is to help advisors stay motivated, and that is the furthest thing from the truth. Motivation is great. When you get up in the morning and you're motivated to go to the gym, is going to the gym a problem? No. When you're motivated to diet, is that a problem? No. When you're motivated to do anything, it's not a problem, right? Because you're motivated. The problem is that I think the average human being is only motivated about 20% of the time, right? And a big block of that time is in January of every year. It's all about commitment. Commitment is what gets you up when you don't want to get up. Commitment may get you to the gym. We don't want to get to the gym, right? So commitment is way more important. How do you build commitment? The power of why. So what I would have my clients do is stack a bunch of reasons, right? That's personal to them. It may be, maybe it triggers a net worth goal, maybe helps them with their family, maybe they get more bucket lists, ideal life and lifestyle, maybe to create, they can increase their philanthropic giving. I mean, you don't need one singular reason. You could build a list, right? And I'd have you do that. And I'd have you take some time and probably involve your family with it, right? And kind of get everybody on board from that perspective, really kind of work through that. And a lot of times in that why will be the concept of the ideal life and lifestyle and working through that. So we want to make sure that's important, okay? So that's box number 2. So what the goal is, why it's a must. Now as I'd say why it's important to you, or we're going to give it a try. I said, why is it a must? Because in our world, tries and like tos and hope tos, they just don't happen. It's too distracting. There's too many different scenarios. So what you really want to do is be super clear on the why, what you need, why it's important to you, right? Why it's a must. So once you get that stacking done, then we're going to go to the next box. So I said the 2 middle, 80%, right? So now I've got a goal. I've got why it's a must with reasons. I may already have my formula of how I'm going to get it done. Like, here's how I'm going to get it done, right? The recipe, in essence. But there's one box. Box number 3 is the most important box. And that box is who you need to become to pull it off. So in other words, identity. Because at the end of the day, your practice is a mirror image of the man or woman in the mirror. It replicates it. So if you are conservative and then you're going to grow conservatively. If you are more of a risk taker, maybe a little bit more entrepreneurial based, a little bit more aggressive, that will show up in your business, right? If you're organized, your business is organized. If you're disorganized, your business is disorganized. If you're a fly by the seat of your pants kind of person, then your practice is going to be fly by the seat of your pants. It's just the way it goes, right? But here's the thing. Using the scenario of 1 million to 5 million, right, to start conversation for today. What I would say if I was working with you would be, okay, we know what the $1 million version of you looks like. I'm speaking to it, right? I'm speaking to it. Here's what it is. You know what it is. The question is, what's the $5 million version of you? So what are the beliefs, the identity, the attributes, the floor, the strategies, the standards, the floor, all that, right? What are we doing? What are we not doing? Who do we associate with? Who are we no longer associating it with? What's our typical day look like? Where are we spending our time? Where are we not spending our time? Like that's the magic. Because once you can determine who you need to become to pull this off, it's a very simple strategy. The faster you become that person, the faster that goal happens. So when we talk about compressing time or collapsing time, what we're really saying is if we can accelerate your transformation to the next versions of you, that we'll get to that impossible goal, that 10-year goal, a lot faster. And I've seen that in my own personal life. I live it. I've seen it with many clients that I coach, and we use time as a tool. The challenge, though, with identity is this is the hard work. And this is where the practice management coaches and everybody else will not go, because it's dirty work. And what I mean by dirty, it's emotionally challenging. You got to be brutally honest with yourself. And if you're sitting there saying, well, I like who I am, I'm just, I am who I am, then you're done. Like it won't happen for you. And here's the evidence I want to give you. For some of you are like, well, I don't know about that. Here's a very simple question. As you're watching or listening to me in this episode, go back a decade, 10 years. Are you the same person today you were a decade ago? Are you the same advisor, you same human being? Is it true that you've not increased your capabilities? Is it not true you've not increased your competency? Is it not true you've increased the value you bring to your clients? If the answer to that is yes, then what makes you think you won't continue to evolve over the next 10 years? All I'm saying is, instead of it being haphazard, happenstance, maybe even accidental, why don't we make it focused and intentional? That is the secret to effective goal setting. The 10-year impossible goal, 3-year timeline, 1-year action plan, compressing it from 10 to 3 as a check, what the goal is, why it's a must, who would I need to become, and then the recipe. So I want you to think 4 boxes, and then 10, 3, 1. That's our goal setting framework. Give it a try. Run your own goals through there. See what you come up with. I want to thank you for watching or listening to this episode of Magellan Network Show. You can find me on the internet at coachjoe.guru, CGURU, or if you want to check out our program, it's magellannetwork.net. Have a super week, and I'll see you all again in 7 days.